Hello, this is Carson Cook, your CSO Pro, and welcome to the channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss any of our future uploads. Enjoy the video.
Hi guys, welcome back. Good morning. My name is Carson Cook, and again, this is your CSO Pro, and today we're going to be talking about a very, very important sales topic, one that I love to train about. It's called Fables and Stories. Now, when you're selling your client or you're dealing with clients, having the ability to tell stories and communicate with your client is kind of a necessity. It's a way of proving a point. So today we're going to be talking about fables and stories and how they work. The three different parts that we're going to talk about are, first off, what are fables and what are stories? What are some of the things that you can do as a sales professional when dealing with your client to get your point across and help them understand what you're trying to put down, essentially. The second thing we're going to talk about is why are fables and stories so important in sales? Like, why are they a necessity? And we'll give you a little bit of an example, which is going to really help. And then the third thing is reading your client and communicating to them as your audience. So as if you were standing in front of an audience, you tell a story to have engagement, just like you would have the title of a newspaper ad, something that's catchy, so that the reader will continue reading the rest of the paragraph. So it's the exact same thing when you're working with clients. You want to pitch to your audience. You want to make sure that your audience knows exactly what you're talking about. So the first thing that we're going to talk about are fables and stories. What are they? Well, stories, guys, we're one of the biggest cultures in the world. We have Hollywood, and we bring that up in some of the other videos. And we learn by stories. We grow up with the TV in front of us. We grow up with Facebook. We grow up with YouTube. And some of the points that we learn come from those, from those very things. So we tend to react. As clients, we tend to react better to a sales professional that can tell a story to prove a point, or tell a fable to actually, get their point across. So when you're selling your product, you're selling yourself or you're selling your company, one of the best ways to tell a story about yourself is to get your customer to understand who you are, to have them buy you and then buy your company and then buy your product, is to have them buy you first, right? Understand who you are. So you tell a story about yourself. Another thing is with the company. It's the same kind of thing. Give them an example of something that's significant that happened in the company that can relate to the client. Okay, and it's another really good way to kind of build up rapport and build up credibility with your client. And then also your product. Tell them a story about your product. Something that's magnificent, something that's amazing, that's going to help get your point across. And whether that point's going to be the price, whether that point's going to be the value-added service, the carrot to your product. Tell a story to kind of help facilitate that idea. Okay, and then they're going to look at themselves, your client, as the character within that story, or how does that relate to me? All right, so you have to ask that question when you're dealing with your client. So another thing we're going to talk about are why fables and stories so important in sales. And I'm going to give you a very, very good example. One of the major objections that you get when you're dealing with your client, okay, and I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a little bit of a story, is that, give me your card. All right, give me your card, which means, I don't have a lot of time for you. What I'm going to do is, I'll call you later. Or, I really like your product. I really, I like this. I like the price of the card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go home and I'm going to think about it, and then I'm going to call you back. I promise I'll call you back. Or I'll be back. Okay, essentially for this story, it's I'll be right back. Okay, so when you say, Mr. Client, you're going to call me back, unfortunately, I don't believe you. Now, to come out and say that to a customer might be a little bit intrusive. It might say, well, look, I just don't believe you. Okay, that's going to cause an argument. It's not going to be productive for the conversation. So instead of putting it that way, what I like to do is I tell a story. Okay, and my story used to be is that at one point in my life, I owned a chain of personal training gyms, and we did all the sales training. And we actually had this big thing that we learned in car sales, a big paper mache bus or construction paper bus that we had on the wall. And it was a school bus, so we called it the Be-Back bus. Okay, so I'm telling this customer this story. I said, well, you said you'd call me back, but now let me tell you a little quick story. Okay, so when I ran personal training studios and I ran gyms, we had this Be-Back bus. And all my clients, I would take them through and I would talk to them about diabetes. I would talk to them about, personal training sessions that could save their life. We would sit them down and we'd go through a process and a product. And then I would say, these are the packages that we're going to offer. Now, they're a bit expensive because there's a meal plan, there's this, there's that. But they're worth it. You can't put a price on your health. And they said, well, you know what? I got to go talk to my husband. I got to go do this. I promise you I'll be back. Okay. So I point over there and I say, well, that's not a problem. What I'll do is I'll take your name, okay, and I'm going to put you, and I'll write your name up on the construction board, just right there. It says, John Anthony or, John Smith, whoever, right? And it's called the Be-Back bus. And what we do is as soon as you come in and you sign up with me and you get this package, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross your name off that Be-Back bus, okay? And then we'll start. And they go, oh, that's great. And I said, well, why don't you look over there and see how many names are crossed off the Be-Back bus for all the clients that told me they'd be back. And out of the 180 names that were on that bus, there's probably 2 that were crossed off. So I said, and then the customer laughs. And I said, well, unfortunately, that's what the customer would say. So I'd say, well, look, when you tell me that you're going to be back and make a change in your life, okay, and get on a better health path, okay, that could potentially save your life, you tell me you're going to be back. Unfortunately, the proof, I just don't believe you. And they look at that board and they say, all right, I can understand what you're saying. I said, well, tell me more about it. And I keep going into the packages and I say, look, let's just do this. What if we did a deal on this one? What if we brought the price down on this? Okay, just a little bit. Let's start you today. Let's make a positive difference today. So when I tell that story to a customer, when I get that objection of, I'll be back, I need to think about it, okay, I can put your name on the think about it bus, and then I'll call you later bus, or I'll be back, or, let me talk to this, and I think we're gonna go ahead with it, but we're just not so sure yet. So instead of me putting your name on that bus, why don't we talk to that department? Why don't we go there? Why don't we find a solution so that, I know that my chances are great in finding a solution for you, for your company, but I don't have to put your name on the Be Back bus, okay? So that's another thing. The third thing that we're going to talk about today, guys, and this final thing in this video is, guys, you need to read your client. You need to make sure that you're communicating that story to your audience. If you're telling a story that's irrelevant, or you're giving a fable that proves a point that doesn't prove your point, then it's completely useless. So you need to think, and the best way to present to your audience, you get one thing in business-to-business sales or face-to-face sales that you don't get over the phone, or you don't get with an audience. If you go to a conference and you speak, which I go to a lot of conferences and I speak in front of thousands of people, is that, you don't get to know who is sitting in each seat. The general conference idea. There, as a keynote speaker, you know what you're going to be pitching for that day. But at the end of the day, you still don't get that ability to pitch to every single person. So then there's a very generic, very broadened topic. When you get to work face-to-face with someone, a client, when you get to walk into their business, you're going to walk into their office, okay? You're going to be able to have stories and fables to prove your points because you've done your research. You know exactly who you're pitching to. You know their background. You know that if you walk into a dentist's office and he has awards on the wall for his barbecue stuff he likes to do on the weekend. If you walk into their office and they have a picture of their family and kids and a picture of their car, you can talk to them about cars. You can pitch to that audience. You can tell them a story that relates to the point that you're trying to get across. Whether it's building up a sense of urgency with your client, whether it's moving them forward in that buying process or getting them to that next step, asking for the green light, or even asking for the close. You can bring up a story that's going to help you overcome that objection, build up rapport, and it does all sorts of things. So fables and stories, guys, will help you build up rapport. It will help you get along with your client, and it's going to definitely increase your sales. Okay, so in your sales process, break it down. Look at your company's sales process and say, this is what my company wants me to do, the steps to the sale. Now, where can you throw in stories there to help build rapport? Where can you throw examples in there to help build up points, or fables in there to prove your sales process or prove your sales points? Okay, so break it down, take a look at it, and then figure out where you can tell stories in your sales process. Again, thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you soon.